Marc Abrams here. I'm broadcasting live from the Station Tap in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, where I have the Philly Godfather and a very special guest, writer, producer to a tremendous movie that just came out called Last Call, Greg Lingo. How you doing, Greg?
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Steve, you want to start it off?
Yeah, life's crazy sometimes. It comes full circle. I grew up in Upper Darby. Greg grew up in Upper Darby. Ran the same circles. I knew his older brother. I remember Greg being a great athlete as a kid. And now we're sitting here at the Station Tap in Drexel Hill in Delaware County interviewing Greg, who's done very well in the real estate market. And he produced, wrote the screenplay.
Co-writer.
Yeah, Last Call. And I actually saw a little clip of you coming out of City Hall. He threw himself in there. But yeah, man, Last Call. The first question I want to ask you is, what motivated you to write the screenplay about, the hometown Upper Darby?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like we had these guys. I guess it was probably when I went to college. When I was talking to my friends and we're talking about people, and I'm talking about my family, my friends, my buddies, my brothers, then my buddies' parents, and just these guys were like, man, this is like a movie. What you're talking about. They hadn't ever experienced, I think, the richness of what we had growing up in Delaware County. Like the neighborhood basically raised us. We had these, and those stories and the interrelations between the guys I thought was a lot of fun. So me and a couple of my friends, Michael Vaughn, I went to high school with, and Billy Riley, who lived around the corner from me, we kind of just started jotting stories down. And then it wasn't until I hooked up with the director, Paolo Pilati. He was from Southwest Philly, but he kind of got the neighborhood pretty well, and I felt pretty confident he could bring it to life.
And you guys did. I mean, you got the Greek family in there.
That's right. Well, I married it.
Smart man. Great cooking, right? So, and the characters, and I know Jamie Kennedy. He's from St. Alice in Upper Darby. You got my buddy Pete over here. We're going to interview in a little bit. He's from West Philly, where we all used to hang out at good times. And now you got this idea to write the screenplay about your hometown and where you grew up. And then how do you take it from a screenplay? You write the story. Now, obviously, you probably changed it around.
That changed a million times.
Yeah. And then how do you, the finance? Did you finance the whole movie? And how did you take it from, words on a piece of paper to film?
Yeah, good question. So Paolo was able to introduce me to three producers primarily. This guy, Untitled Chapter, Rob Simmons, and DJ Dodd. And those guys had done many independent films. So they kind of said to me, all right, let's just see who you can get in terms of cast. Now, as we were finalizing the script, we actually had a reading in Philadelphia at a casting studio. And that's how I met Pete Patrikios. He really stood out in that group. And I remember saying to Paolo, all right, whenever we cast this thing, that guy's going to be in this. We don't know what role yet, but he was just awesome. And got not only the accent, but the Philly vibe that we were looking for. So these guys went out to, the first weekend that we went out, they came back and they said, hey, Taryn Manning wants to be in it. And I remember saying to my wife, hey, Taryn Manning wants to be in it. She was in Orange is the New Black. My wife's like, why would she want to be in it? I don't get it. Why would she have any, So then the next weekend, these guys are like, hey, we got Bruce Dern. So I talked to my wife, like, we got Bruce Dern, a 2-time Oscar nominee. And she's like, yeah, but why the hell would he want to be in it? So she was keeping me grounded in the process. But and then after the two of them, then I reached out to Jamie, who I knew from growing up. We used to cut grass together at 69th Street, working for the school district. And then it kind of started the steamroll. We were able to get Jeremy Piven and then bring the supporting cast, Pete Patrikios, and then a bunch of the others. It's really just, like I said, steamroll.
So how did you meet Piven? Because Piven's obviously the home run hitter in the movie. He plays the big role in the movie. Now, how do you meet him? How do you contact him? I mean, what avenues did you go?
Yeah, good question. These guys, the producers, really, DJ and Rob, they got big balls, and they kind of just went to people. So they went to Bill Murray, I remember him saying, and Bill Murray loved the script, but it was too expensive for us. Right. Then they went to Donald Sutherland, same thing, loved the script, too expensive for us. Chevy Chase, and then William Shatner, and then finally I said, hey, let's go after that, the protagonist, the main character. So we went out to one actor, and his agent said, he absolutely hates it. So that was our first, all right, not everyone loves it. He said, but I can get you my other client, Jeremy Piven. And we were like, That must be amazing. So, and I think for Piven it was attractive because we had Bruce Dern in it. He also has a stand-up comedy career, so he liked the idea of being with Jamie, who's just unbelievable at the improv, stand-up stuff. So they really rounded the cast out well.
Right, and Jamie's from Upward Army, and then Sherry O'Terry, she plays a pretty big role in the movie. Every time Jerry Piven's getting the massage done, and she's overcharging him in the movie. How did you guys reach out to her?
So I reached out to her direct through a friend of a friend, and we kind of made her character up as we were filming, believe it or not. We felt like we had to make Jeremy a little more grounded and have him have some kind of like spiritual advisor, if you will, in a funny way.
Right.
So we reached out to her at the time. I had reached out to her before we started shooting, and the timing didn't work. This happened to work real well for her. We were thrilled to have her. Matter of fact, she was just in Delaware County last weekend. She was at Paulie's Tavern on Saturday.
I got a question for you. Obviously, Steve said successful real estate, the private sector of life. When did this, if I would have told you 5, 6, 8 years ago, you'd be directing, with all these major names and producing, what would you have said to me?
Yeah, I would have thought it was crazy. I mean, this is definitely a pinch me moment when you get this level of quality of cast. And it was funny, whenever anyone came on the set, I kind of said, hey, Jeremy, nice to meet you. Tell me about why you're here.
Yeah.
And Bruce Stearns was the funniest. He said, well, I get it. I went to the University of Penn. I lived in Upper Darby when I went to Penn, so I get this. And he's like, people aren't making these kind of movies. They're not the neighborhood movie. And what made it so interesting was to be able to make the neighborhood kind of part of the story in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was one of the better movies that came out this year. Now, was there a release date, and how did the whole COVID thing affect that? Did it push you guys back?
COVID added time to everything. We felt finally, I was very fortunate to land IFC Films as my distributor, and they, I kind of had to follow their lead, and their lead was, well, you know what, people are sitting in their house. This isn't the worst thing that could happen. Let's release it and get it out there. It took extra time on the post-production and just getting kind of the film wrapped up. But
did the extra time help you guys polish the movie up a little bit?
Yeah, it was extra time that really helped us with the soundtrack and getting the right artists for the different pieces of it.
Okay, so now you got the script, you picked the actors, you got the director. Did you guys dissect other movies and try and figure out how many scenes should be in the movie? 17, 20 scenes, how long the scenes are, so you broke it all down to see exactly. Now how many other movies did your director? How many other movies had he done?
So this is my director's directorial debut. So this was his first one. Rob and Ante and DJ had done in the 30 range, I would say, in terms of independent films. We brought on a great consultant along the way, a marketing consultant, Matthew Cohen Creative, and he was the guy that said, all right, we're landing this thing at an hour and 40. We need to get rid of that scene. We need to change the scene. So I would say he really helped us with the shaping of the film.
Were you involved in a lot of the editing, and how long did that take?
Yeah, editing, the whole process of post-production, I'd say, was about 8-9 months. And I kind of had veto authority on all of it, because I really didn't want our story to be lost there. And not that the story, but, it's more the story of the neighborhood that I wanted to preserve.
When you talk about the neighborhood, how much of the neighborhood was actually filmed, and did you guys film anywhere else?
Yeah, so we filmed mostly in New Jersey, quite frankly. New Jersey had a tax credit that Pennsylvania didn't have for a film our size. So we filmed the majority of it in Bayonne, New Jersey. Bayonne was a great fit for Delaware County. It felt exactly like it. I took the producers down to Delaware County, and we went to Station Tap, we went to Cawley's, Callahan's, we went to the Trophy Tavern in Drexel Hill. We went to all these places so they could get the flavor of the neighborhood. After that little tour, they were like, we got the right place, it's Bayonne. So we were able to get the tax credit up there. Portion of the movie is filmed in shore, so in Bayonne we're near the water, we could kind of make that work. But all of the background we shot in Upper Darby and Philadelphia, and Piven and Sherry O'Terry scenes were all in Philadelphia.
You took Piven.
I was going to say, how cool is it that, it's about your neighborhood, almost basically in your neighborhood, and then you make this come to life on the big screen. I mean, when you said it's like a pinch you moment that you're doing this, but this is like your childhood, you're growing up, and it's...
Yeah, so, none of it is autobiographical.
Yeah.
But it is, it is a love letter to the neighborhood. I think what we grew up with isn't ever going to be replicated. our parents gave us this super long leash, and with that leash, you kind of hung yourself, or you navigated through it, and and your friends helped raise you. Really, right now we're dropping our kids off at every sporting event. We're making sure they have extra orange slices so that they don't get dehydrated. Our parents, they were throwing us on our bike. Hey, you forgot your glove, and you're gone. And I remember crossing over Westchester Pike, going down State Road, crossing over Garrett. Like, making a zillion decisions along the way that could have been bad, and then some kids aren't showing up for the game. What happened? I don't know where it is.
Have you gotten any phone calls from the neighborhood people? Hey, that's me. Have you gotten any of those?
Yeah. Did Whitey call you?
Yeah, Whitey and I did speak, actually. He was comfortable with the depiction. We did get, it's funny, I got a lot of people who reached out before the movie, and they're like, hey, I know this might have some real things in it. Could you just please leave out the time that this happened and that happened? So, you get a little negative feedback from people that think it should have been their life.
Yeah.
But you're right what you see, and it's through the lens of what you saw.
Hey, Greg talked earlier about how special Upper Darby was growing up. I mean, everybody knew everyone. You would ride your bike down to Cardington or Stonehurst or Drexel Hill and the different, baseball fields or basketball courts.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Upper Darby is a huge township, but everybody knew everybody's name, and it was just a special place to grow up.
Yeah. It's the same population as Center City, so it's a big place, but it's really unique place.
What are the local politicians and whatever from Upper Darby? They reached out to you?
I talked to Mayor Keffer often in Upper Darby. We have a couple of businesses in the town, including Station Tap, so we're supportive. I spend a lot of time at the high school with mentoring and trying to help develop kids to be prepared for the next stage of life. So, I think people are proud that finally something on the big screen shows the neighborhood a little bit. Whether it's exactly how they wanted it to be shown, that's something.
Now, earlier you talked about tax credit, the tax break,
Yeah.
and as a businessman, I mean, you're always looking for positive expectation. You're looking to invest money to make money back. Now, we all know movies is such a gamble.
It's a gamble.
What made you say, you know what, it's worth taking that?
Yeah, I think once we got the talent, I think this movie without great actors is just a movie. And I think that those guys, nobody was mailing it in. We got really strong performances from guys. It's funny. Not a lot of people are making comedies anymore. It's more of the, is it a superhero or a Pixar film? And this is just out of the box a little bit. But I think I felt confident once we got the talent attached, knowing that people are going to want to watch these guys.
Now, was the title of the movie always Last Call?
Yeah, we changed it actually. Initially, it was crabs in a bucket, and the idea there was to throw a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and once one almost climbs out, the others pull it back down. And so I thought that was pretty apropos. The distributor, both our foreign distributor, Film Mode, and IFC said, look, you got to get two words. It's got to make more sense. We don't want it to look like a National Geographic about crabs. It's got to be pretty clear to the audience.
Now that you've completed a great movie, do you have any aspirations to?
I started noodling with ideas on another one. I'd like to do another comedy. I think comedies are kind of when we were kids, you had Rodney Dangerfield, you had all the holiday, Christmas holiday or Christmas Vacation. All those movies, I don't think they get made today. It's just not.
The environment's a little trickier these days.
Yeah, exactly. So we were kind of threading the needle a little bit on what is and isn't appropriate, and that changes all the time. It's changed since the time we made this.
Steve, we may be next to that Scorsese. You just don't know it. You just don't know it. So, a few months after everything's gone, when the first time you watched it, what was going through your head the first time you watched it?
So I was watching all of the little pieces along the way. So it was cool to see it kind of brought together, and I credit to Matthew Cohen on kind of what the format was at the end. But it was rewarding. But the first time I ever saw it was the day of the release, seeing it on the big screen.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, really cool. And I got to see it with about 100 of my friends.
That's pretty cool. Steve, any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, when your kids saw the movie, I mean, what was their initial reaction? Because, as fathers, as parents, we do everything for our children.
Exactly.
I mean, how did you feel at that moment?
Yeah, so they were. I think one of my girls said to me, "Hey, is this going to be a Walmart movie?" So I said, "Well, what the hell's a Walmart movie?" And she said, "Well, you walk into Walmart and you've got like Mounds and Almond Joy and then a couple movies." And I said, "Well, there may be DVDs, but I think it's better than that." So she was kind of a little in awe. But you're proud of the accomplishment, and there's no way I do this without the support of my kids and my wife.
Absolutely.
How's the movie business compared to, like you said, your real estate and all other businesses? The movie business
Yeah, so
it's
a little, it's much less predictable. That's for sure. I know when I'm building a house, it's going to get done at some point. It might be, we might have bad weather along the way. This isn't all that different. That when you're building a house, it's you get a little more if you had nice shutters and this and that. And I think that's what we did with the cast, right? And I think it kind of, at the end of it, we may or may not make the money back, but I think the experience was amazing. And I think it's great for Upper Darby and for Delaware County to be kind of held up there as a place of pride.
Have you heard from anyone in Hollywood? Since some people we may have heard of, your phone rang and there was someone on the other line that you.
Yeah, so I've not so much. I have when I was trying to get the distributor on board, I went to everybody. Like just personally, we didn't hire a sales agent in the United States, and I just kind of went to everybody. A lot of doors got closed in my face, which is fine. But we had about 7 or 8 distributors that were like, man, I love this thing. So, you got to just jump on the horse. And IFC, we're really lucky. IFC Films is amazing.
They're international, right?
Yeah.
Overseas, everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
It's a
Yes.
huge market out there.
Yeah, so they were our North American distributor. And then internationally, we're using Film Mode, and they're selling it kind of territory by territory.
Now, when you were done this movie and COVID hit, how did that set you guys back?
Yeah, so COVID.
I mean, mentally, did it,
Yeah, I mean, it had all of us nervous. I'll tell you, last April, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen with everything. Our business, my kids are home from school, and we're all just staring at each other. You don't know, you're getting the mail, and the news is telling you to throw the mail in the garage for a week and a half, and take your shoes off when you walk outside, don't look at anyone in the eye. So we didn't know what to do. And then slowly but surely, we just kind of kept plugging away, because we still, and we advanced the ball, and by advancing the ball, we got to a great spot.
Well, Steve, we have a little treat. Greg was kind enough to send us a link, and I'm able to play of the trailer. So we can actually play it for our, find it here. I believe this is it.
Darby Heights. Some places never change.
Oh, hey, look who showed up.
It's good to see you, son.
My friend, I will always miss you.
What are you still doing in the Heights?
Well, I like it here. It's nostalgic.
Those are the days.
Hey, what's your boys tonight? Yeah, we'll have a good time.
Listen, don't drink the way I used to.
Well, neither do we.
Those are the days.
A casino in Darby Heights.
You get this done, and I'll make you my partner.
Trying to get some signatures, because we're going to be building...
Hey, Mac.
Hey, how's it going? Call me. It's a petition for the new casino zone. A casino would resurrect the area, don't you think?
Did you forget where you came from?
Hey. Oh, no, not this time.
The bucket.
You're gonna help me with the pub that was good to your family for all these generations.
You make I remember would never pass by the house without saying hello.
Hello, Mrs. C.
I heard that you sold out, turned your back on the neighborhood.
We still got the bucket.
Maybe there's some hope left in you. I see it.
It's Friday!
We have a 3-stain policy. If you have more than 3 stains on your shirt, you can't get in.
Can I see you again?
I doubt it.
Damn good to see you,
Good to
kid.
see you,
Damn
buddy.
good.
It's like you've been standing there for 12 years. You're still a health nut. I love it.
We've been working for years to restore the Heights.
You just go out and get signatures. You got a problem with that?
Here we go, fellas.
A captain never abandons his ship.
God, you guys break out in hides if you have to leave the Heights.
No reason to leave except if you go to the shore.
Unbelievable. Look at you guys. It's like you've been shellacked since 1997. I thought you'd grow up by now.
What, like you?
you have it, the terrific trailer from Last Call. Now we're joined by one of the stars and actors of the movie, Peter Patricios.
Hello.
Peter,
Magic, you know.
He's one of the hottest new actors out there. Every time I turn around, he's in a different movie. Old childhood friend, and he was actually in my niece's movie. How many years ago was that?
Small world. Like that was when I was starting out as an actor. So I was in my 20s. So it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
Maybe more than that.
20 years ago. 20 years ago. Alicia, that was great. I played a Greek in that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
So talk about Greg mentioned about you hooking up with him. Talk about that whole process.
Yeah, well, so I mean, he mentioned that I was part of the reading when they first did it. So that's, I guess that's one of the steps in the process is getting the script read. And so I didn't know that it was going to get, maybe you do a lot of readings and stuff like that. And so as it turned out, when they moved, this is years later, they're coming to make the movie. I had also worked with one of the producers on some other films. So apparently the story went that the director of this film and the producer of these other films, they both said, we have digits, right? And so Paolo said, no, I have digits. He did the reading. And Ante said, I have digits. I have this guy. And they kept going back and forth. They said, well, I've got Peter Patricios. And then Ante pulls out the headshot. He goes, this Peter Patricios? So they both wanted me for the film. So that never happens. Nobody,
They were fighting over you, but they both wanted you the whole time.
both wanted me the whole time. It was a win-win.
What was it like working with all the actors on the set? I mean, Jeremy Piven, huge name, and
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been so exciting.
It was very exciting. I mean, that was one of the names that I knew. But they did a very good job. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I did not know who some of the stars were that were going to be in this film. I mean, let's talk about Bruce Dern, Catherine Moriarty. Aside from the names that were told to me, and I was on set and I was speaking to this woman, and she seemed very nice, and I'm talking to her. She looked familiar. I wasn't sure why. And when I walked away, one of the other, I think it was Jamie, he said, do you know who that was? And I said, no. He said, that's Catherine Moriarty. And I was like, I didn't even know. I was so blown away. And so those things were happening as I was on set. So I was finding out, and it was just one actor after another where I was just so impressed with the fact that they were, part of the film and just excited to be working with them. I think it was better that they didn't know because I probably would have been nervous.
Yeah, and she's such a big name. I mean, Marc's been in boxing forever, and she was in arguably the greatest boxing movie of all time, Raging Bull.
I was going to say, a great way to hype.
Yeah, so there's some huge names in this movie. Now, how long did it take to film the movie? And, I mean, how long are the hours? Are they 12-hour days when you're filming? Are they 14-hour days? Are they 8-hour days? I mean, there's a lot of work involved.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the number of scenes that you have. The people that are the longest are going to be the crew and things like that. That I don't know for sure, but I was usually on set not that long. I mean, my longest day was probably 10 hours. But I mean, you're going to be there for as long as you need to get it done. I was just happy to be there. So no matter how long it was, I was just excited to be a part of it. I can't help it.
When you watch the movie, you got to pay attention to the shirts.
I did go to medical school. I didn't finish, so I'm not a gynecologist.
And this is the shirt that we wouldn't get thrown off the airport.
It went through several. I'm trying to tell you. It's something that my mom can read, but yeah. This is funny that I was a med student and I'm having this shirt over here.
Talk about Steve mentioned you've been in a lot of things. Talk about your career a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, I had a non-traditional path towards acting. I'd always wanted to do it, but I'm a first-generation Greek American, and so my father was all about education, moving forward with that. I have two brothers. I was the one who was really scholastic. And it's funny. This film is about a character who sort of makes it out of the neighborhood in a way and moves forward, and that was kind of part of what clicked with me with this film because I was one of those kids who was very bookish in the books and always wanted to be an actor, and then ended up doing it, dropping out of medical school. I got as far as medical school, and then dropping out to do the acting. And I remember I was out of school I dropped out of Temple, and I was out for 3 months, the whole time not telling my father that I dropped out. He had a pizza shop. And one day, when I said, Dad, I haven't been to class in 3 months. I started acting. I went out and auditioned for stuff. He was really upset about it. But so I didn't have a lot of the connections and stuff that you normally have. So it's been pounding the pavement and making connections along the way and building every year. And so eventually it led to getting together with Greg on this film. And it was really one of the biggest things that I've gotten to do so far. So I was very excited about that.
Now, as an actor, do you prefer comedies? Because this was a hilarious mean, is there a certain type of movie that you prefer to act in? Which one's harder? Which one's easier? Which one really expresses yourself who you are?
So I'm a goofball. I mean, I love making people laugh, and you always hear this, that comedy is harder than drama, and I think that it is, but I love to make people laugh. However, I tend to get cast as serious roles, bad guys, people doing bad things, and all my friends crack up because I'm the nicest, one of the, I'm a nice guy.
How cool is it for you? Obviously, you went to Temple, you're a local guy, to be doing a movie about, well, you didn't grow up here, did you?
I did, yeah, I grew up here. My father had a pizza shop in West Philly.
What I meant here with this particular neighborhood, but you know the neighborhood.
I can walk to the neighborhood.
I mean, where he grew up, it bordered up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can walk to it.
So how cool is it to
And
do
I've been to that bar.
How cool is it to do a movie about a place, an area that you know like in the back of your hand?
It's amazing, and it's amazing for two reasons. Number one is the people, the local people, definitely found out about it. So everyone was sort of talking about it, and then they find out you're doing it. It's nice to mention a movie that people have heard about, And then, the director, and there was crossover with family. So my brother knew the director and the director's wife, and so there was familiarity there. And so that helped sort of with the connections and understanding one another. You're doing a film about your local neighborhood, and if you grew up in it, you understand the innuendos and the jokes. There's one scene in the film where we get, what was it, the tasty cake, Greg? What was it, the tasty cakes? And we rub it on our shirt because everybody knows when you have the icing's going to come off with the wrapper. So little things like that are just really local flavor that you would know.
Now, out of all the roles you've had, I know you were in Boardwalk Empire. Is this the biggest role you've had so far in your career?
I would have to say yes. I mean, I've done bigger, like a Godfather, Boardwalk Empire. These are all big shows, Emmy award-winning, Emmy-nominated shows. But I'll do small parts in big shows or big parts in very, very independent shows. So this really has gotten me the most attention than any project that I've had. And it has the most stars in it of any project I've ever done. And surprisingly, I was very comfortable with everybody. Jeremy was really cool. Jamie Kennedy grew up in the same area. I used to watch him on the Jamie Kennedy Experiment, so that was cool. I got to coach people on the Philly accent, which was cool. And Catherine Moriarty, I got to coach her a little bit on the Greek, so I was really...
Now, since obviously the Boardwalk Empire, your phone going to start ringing a little bit more?
Yes, I got parts because of this movie, and I got my first interview. This is my second interview ever in all the years of it. My first one was for a Greek news outfit.
We're bigger than that.
Yes. So I was very excited. Things it impacted my career for sure.
Pete, are you still local, or are you planning on moving out to Hollywood? Or
I blew up. I'm everywhere.
He's international.
Yeah, I shouldn't even be here.
Well, we're hoping to get some autographs before you leave.
Yeah. Well, just don't tell your agent. We may get billed for this.
Yep.
So
anything, Steve, any follow-up questions or anything for Pete?
I've known him since I was a kid. I mean, my father used to take us to his father's pizza shop when we were real little. Then we reconnected later, me and his brother, and hanging out in West Philly.
You knew my brother well.
Yeah,
I thought that would work against me.
Nah, he's a great guy. I just want to thank you, Pete, for coming on. I want to thank Greg for coming on. It's a great movie. Make sure you guys go check it out. Last Call. You can find it everywhere. I think it's on Hulu, Amazon Prime, on demand. It's international, like Greg said earlier. So make sure you guys check it out. Last Call. Make sure you guys check it out. And
if you're ever in the area, don't forget to stop by the Station Tap here in Drexel Hole, Pennsylvania. Get a nice cold beverage, and I thank you. I thank Greg for having us. Thank you, Philly Godfather, and see the movie Last Call. Good day.